I'm Bridget, and this is a poem I wrote called When I Was Younger. I hope you like it. When I was younger, I had so many dreams that I couldn't even begin to fit them all between the tiny walls of my skull. So instead, I left them behind me everywhere that I went, hoping that one day someone else might stumble across them. When I went to museums, I slipped them between the ribs of ancient dinosaurs and tucked them behind the ears of scowling plastic cavemen. At dance class, I pushed them into the tips of my ballet flats so I could pretend that I was wearing pointe shoes and feel like a real ballerina. Sometimes I'd stuff them into envelopes, sealing them closed with swipes of my sticky tongue, and slap a stamp into the corner. And on the front, I'd write, "To whomever it may concern," and I'd slot it through the mouths of those big blue mailboxes that sit on busy street corners, and hope that it ended up in the right hands. At night, I would catch my dreams like fireflies and put them into old jelly jars. I'd poke holes in the lids so that they could breathe and place them on my windowsill to battle any darkness that tried to crawl in through the glass while I was asleep. And when I was younger, I had more future occupations that I could count on all of my fingers and toes put together. And if you asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I would be able to tell you what I didn't want to be, and that was boring. And when I was younger, I had so much faith that I pushed it on to other people. I made them throw it back like cough syrup, and I wasn't happy until it hit the backs of their throats. And as I grew up, the people I gave it to started to disappoint me. So I tried to ask for it back, but by that point it had already trickled down their esophagus and had been initiated into the curves of their stomachs. And it didn't belong to me anymore. And when I was younger, I had so much hope that with the strong hands of my idealism, I could spin the world like a basketball on my fingertips, while simultaneously holding the sun and shining it into the darkest caves of the world to make sure that everyone got a fair share of daytime. And once, when I was younger, I sat in my third grade science class, and the teacher told me to think outside the box. Think outside the box. But I'm not in a box, I said. I'm in the universe. I am playing in the sky with the stars, leaping between them, swaying from one golden lamp to another, grasping at them like bars on a jungle gym. But one time, I grabbed at the light and my fingers slipped through. So instead, I climbed up the beam, following it like a yellow brick road. But when I reached the curtain and pulled it back, the wizard wasn't there. Instead, there was a bunch of elements that I didn't understand. And as I grew up, I began to understand them. And I realized I didn't want to. I didn't want the mystery to be solved. I just wanted to see the glimmering light and see magic. I wanted to believe in miracles and fairy tales, but all too quickly, I was finding philosophies and mathematics behind every enigma. And suddenly, I looked down and I saw high heels on my feet, where the only shoes I had ever worn before was a layer of dirt that collected from running barefoot through grass. And I realized I couldn't count my future aspirations on my toes anymore. When I continued growing up, suddenly my right hand was busy too. It was busy scribbling essays and geometry proofs, all with words that weren't my own. I couldn't even recognize the curves of what my hand was writing anymore. And just as quickly, the thumb on my left hand became occupied too, always telling everyone, "Yes, I understand. Yes, I'm doing just fine. Thumbs up. I'm all good." And my index finger followed, giving advice with wisdom it did not contain, always pointing, saying, "This is the right way." Next, my middle finger abandoned counting my future paths, too angry and diligently flicking everyone off to keep track. And finally, my ring finger became so obsessed with the idea of being encircled by a gold band and heavy rock that it was lost too. And all that was left was my lonely pinky finger. But I realized that I didn't even have a single plan left for it to carry. I had hidden all of my dreams too well, and I had forgotten where I put them. All my faith had been swallowed up by other people, and I had forgotten to save some for myself. And the hope I had left was not enough to lift the world once again, let alone shine the sun. I had completely lost any direction I previously held. But then, one day, I was babysitting a little girl, and it was her bedtime, and I sang her songs that I didn't believe anymore. And as I pulled the blanket up to her chin and tucked a stray curl behind her ear, I caught a glimpse of something sparkly underneath her pillow. So I waited for her to fall asleep and then gently tugged it from where it was snuggled underneath her head. And it was a piece of paper with a pink bow wrapped around it and the words, "To whomever it may concern," written on it. And just like that, I remembered what choice my pinky held. And I realized it had been there all along. I just had never seen it. So one day, 10 years from now, I hope to be back in that third grade classroom again. And when that little girl looks up to me and asks if she should think outside the box, I will say no, you should live outside of it. And then I will take her hand and we will go play in the sky with the stars. Hope you liked it.